Hello and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines through the week. I'm Joke Rogers. The headlines. Federal government says there's no cause for alarm as it reacts to recent security advisories by some foreign embassies. House of Representatives summons Finance Minister and two others to explain why the Office of the Auditor General is being undermined. The House also rejects the budget for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs over alleged infractions. Women in Management, Business and Public Service, WimBiz, holds 21st Annual Conference in Lagos with the theme, Firing Forward, the Future in Focus. Plus, Ethiopia and Tigray agreed to end Today, News Round begins with security matters. There's no cause for alarm as far as the country's security is concerned. And that's the assurance coming from the National Security Advisor, Babagana Mongono. The NSA, who was speaking at the end of this week's Security Council meeting in Abuja, describes any heightened sense of insecurity as a distraction. According to him, the situation is under control following a series of arrests, which the evaluations are ongoing.
Days after President Muhammadu Buhari assured Nigerians to remain calm and vigilant after a series of security alerts from the United States of America and other countries, which threw citizens into panic, he convenes an emergency National Security Council meeting for a debriefing behind closed doors. After less than an hour, the National Security Advisor emerges from the meeting and tells the media that there is no cause for alarm.
The issue of Nigerians being made to panic is unnecessary. The situation in various areas of the Federal Capital Territory, the situation has been brought under control, and we're trying as much as possible to work with our neighbors and within the domestic situation to work with our foreign partners in a responsible way, without giving the impression that Nigeria is skating on thin ice and we're about to implode. That I would want to dispel any illusion about any heightened sense of insecurity. It is false, it is irresponsible for anybody to give that signal.
Corroborating assurances by the NSA, the Chief of Defense Staff and the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency underpin that there is no need to heed false alarms.
There's no cause for alarm, and Nigerians should go about their normal duties as the armed forces and all the security agencies are well poised to protect them accordingly.
We are indeed actually expanding because this is a demand of the situation of the current times to engage, to expand partnership, foreign partnership, so that our country, our people should remain safe, and our region, and for also global peace and security.
Further concerns in some quarters over a sudden alteration of flight schedule from Britain to Nigeria from an airline is further debunked.
Those flights were not because of the alerts that, or that particular flight was not diverted to Lagos or cancelled because of the alert, but it had been done before. And a lot of it has to do with, as you know, the ongoing issue with foreign airlines. So it's in that context and not in the context of security alert.
There has been a number of security alerts issued by the United States recommending against travel to some parts of the country, but the latest, which stoked so much fear and mixed reactions, particularly here in the FCT, is a situation the National Security Council now concludes is simply a distraction. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Well, after that meeting in Abuja, President Muhammadu Buhari left for Owerri, the Imo State capital, where he sat as special guest of honor at the Senior Police Officers Retreat. President Buhari spoke about the upcoming elections, saying there's no other option than for the military and the police to help Nigerians get credible and acceptable elections come 2023.
President Muhammadu Buhari arriving in company of Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State for the annual police conference holding in Owerri, the state capital. In the hall are top serving and retired police officers as well as the Inspector General of Police. According to the IGP, this senior police conference is holding to strategize for peaceful conduct of the 2023 general election.
We intend to draw on the outcome of these initiatives to perfect our election security strategy and action plans towards stabilizing the security and political landscape in a manner that will strengthen citizens' confidence in the electoral process and produce a credible electoral outcome in the 2023 general elections.
The IGP also lists what he calls some landmark interventions by the President towards building a better police force. Some goodwill messages from different bodies, Chief of Defense Staff and the Imo State Governor, all harping on the need to have a peaceful election next year.
The bimodal voter accreditation system, WimBiz, has come to stay and will be the only machine INEC will use in the conduct of the 2023 general election.
On behalf of the armed forces, indeed, give the IG all the encouragement that is required, letting you know that we are there to support you and other security agencies in providing security for all our citizens.
As you may know, I will remain the relentless advocate of free, fair and peaceful elections in the country. I have always maintained that every election dispute can and should be resolved peacefully through available legal channels, not by violence or by heating up the polity.
A loud applause for the President as he makes his way to the podium, where he speaks about concerns for a safer Nigeria, particularly during the 2023 general election.
And at this occasion, I charge the Nigerian Police Force to deliver to the nation during the 2023 general elections. It is my expectation that force will maximize the opportunity of this conference and reach to achieve two critical goals. First, to review the current and evolving internal security threats as they may impact on a peaceful and successful election. Second, to perfect operational plans that will guarantee a credible outcome in the 2023 general elections. My vision is also to bequeath to the nation a police force that is not only modernized, but well-funded, suitably equipped, and appropriately reorientated to effectively police our democracy and guarantee a stable internal security order under a citizen-led, technology-driven, rule of law guided by intelligence-based policing models.
This would be the last senior police officers conference before next year's general election, and the expectation from this conference is for the police to regain the confidence of all of Nigeria and ensure that the will of the people prevail at the end of the exercise.
And now to the National Assembly, where the House of Representatives Committee on Public Accounts has summoned the Minister of Finance, the Director General of the Budget Office, and the Accountant General of the Federation to explain why the Office of the Auditor General is being undermined. The chairman of the committee, Mr. Oluwole, also announced this while rejecting the 2023 budget proposal of the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation. The committee also rejected the budget for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs over alleged infractions.
Practices Convention.
Budget defense sessions continue in the House of Representatives as the Auditor General defends his budget before the Committee on Public Accounts. Lawmakers are shocked at what they described as a meager sum proposed for the Office of the Auditor General in the 2023 Appropriation Bill.
Why would you allocate several billions to ancillary institutions, and you are giving 62 million naira to the Office of Auditor General of the Federation to fund capital? We reject this budget. This budget cannot work.
The committee demands answers and issues summons to those involved in the budgeting process.
The Minister for Finance, the DG Budget, the Accountant General of the Federation, the three of them should cause appearance before this committee to come and tell Nigerians why they are undermining the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation, why the office has not been staffed, why they have not been given the tools required to work to wage corruption in the land.
Meanwhile, in another room, the Foreign Affairs Committee declines to consider the budget of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for violating the Appropriation Act.
Missions and embassies have been empowered to constitute their tender board for the purpose of the procurements they need to make. We have called the attention of the Minister to this act, but he has continued to direct the missions not to obey this law in spite of receiving about 4 letters on the issue. The Minister has continued to authorize the spending of monies generated through administrative charges at the missions without being appropriated by the National Assembly. The committee has resolved as follows: that it will not consider the present 2023 appropriation proposal of the ministry until it does the following. 1. Direct all missions to abide by Section 10 of the 2022 Appropriation Act as amended.
We're not flouting it in any way, and I have certainly never sent or signed anything to any mission to tell them to disregard those requirements.
Even if you are not aware, you are the head, you should be aware today that telex have been sent to embassies to disrespect and disregard the law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The committee states that it will, however, review the 2022 budget of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and re-invites the minister if need be. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
When we come back on Newsround, we'll take a look at some other stories, such as the one from the Minister of Education, who admits failure in curbing out-of-school children. That's in a moment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. The Minister of Education, Malam Adamu, has admitted that his inability to end the menace of out-of-school children is one of the many failures of his office since his 7 years there. He stated this at a meeting of the National Council on Education in Abuja. Malam Adamu indicated that the general insecurity in the country has also played a pivotal role despite the federal government's efforts.
Commissioners for Education and their permanent secretaries from the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, as well as top executives in the educational sector, converged in Abuja for the 66th meeting of the National Council on Education. This year, the focal point is strengthening security and safety in Nigerian schools with the aim of achieving Education 2030 agenda. The need to address out-of-school children ranks high on the agenda. According to the latest global data from the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, Nigeria has about 20 million out-of-school children, a situation the Minister of Education, Adamu, accepts culpability for.
I came into office with the resolve to remove out-of-school children, and I failed. So for 7 years, I'm unable to do this. There are so many other reasons, most of which probably will have to do with you commissioners, because let me dwell on this.
He further harps on the importance of ensuring the safety and security of all educational institutions.
As others have said, the choice is very apt because we are now living in a situation where insecurity has virtually taken over everything, as our children display. These are challenges that confront our educational system, and unless we do something, it will retard or completely stop it. And it is the responsibility of governments at all levels to uphold the right to education for all by ensuring all barriers to education are removed.
The National Assembly and the Women Affairs Ministry also shared this school of thought, saying it will be a priority with the three arms of government.
We in the National Assembly, we will look into all the submissions by the various facilitators under the ministry and the ministry itself, and we are going to ensure that the issue of security is taken seriously and adequately provided for.
To me, and to all my mandate in the Ministry of Women Affairs, education of the girl child is top on my agenda.
At the end of this meeting, these executives are expected to have taken stock of the situation in the education sector, its challenges, and consider policy options that will propel the sector towards achieving its Sustainable Development Goals and the African Charter of 2063.
Now to the flooding disaster, which has impacted all states in Nigeria. The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Mrs. Sadiya Umar Farouk, says that Bayelsa State is not among the top 10 most affected by the recent floods from the assessment carried out so far. Addressing State House correspondents at the weekly ministerial briefing, she says that the Jigawa State is the most impacted state by flood in the country.
There are a series of reports on the recent floods as communities groan under the impact of it. We've seen prominent cases recorded in places like Bayelsa, but the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry says that riverine area isn't even the worst affected as Nigerians scrutinize the interventionist program of the ministry. Claims of an asymmetrical intervention and relief distribution to the south were among pivotal issues the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs reacted to as she anchored the week's ministerial briefing.
We have taken intervention to Bayelsa, and it's still ongoing. We are using the Nigerian Air Force to access the inaccessible areas. But it will also interest you to know that Bayelsa is not even amongst the 10 most hit. I think Jigawa is number one. We are working with the local authorities, with the affected communities to gather this data of the affected persons.
According to the ministry, states in the top 10 ranking as at October 24 are Jigawa with a death toll of 91, Anambra 77, and Yobe recording 59. Indices like the number of deaths, persons affected, displaced, and injured per state, among others, was used.
And also other directors.
12,000 metric tons of grains have been approved by the president for distribution, but the federal government acknowledged that the nation's food security may have been heavily impacted.
We are doing the assessment of those farmlands that are going to be destroyed, and we submit our report to the Food Security Council, which is being chaired by His Excellency Mr. President, and the vice chair is His Excellency the Governor of Kebbi State. So once that is done, we'll know the next step to take, but definitely farmers will be compensated. Those that lost their means of livelihoods will also be compensated.
The ministry now plans to operationalize its flood emergency plan to engender swifter responses going forward. From the presidential villa, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
For 21 years, the Women in Business and Public Service in Nigeria, WimBiz, has inspired, empowered, and advocated for better representation of women, while also providing the networking environment for them to do so. Some have changed career paths, been mentored by top executives, and even gone on to become leaders in different sectors and departments. This year's conference, titled Firing Forward, The Future in Focus, marked a milestone for the non-profit organization built on the sweat and determination of a few good women.
It's my pleasure this morning to...
This year's conference, WimBiz's 21st, hit a significant milestone with attendance. Over 2,500 women registered to attend this year's event in person, and more than 300 others joined online real-time. A new board of trustees is inducted, WimBiz's second since its 21 years of inception, with Mrs. Bisi Adeyemi, the CEO of DCSL Corporate Services Limited, becoming the new chairman.
The African affairs in the
conference kicks off in earnest with its first plenary, themed Taking Charge, the New Face of Leadership. The discussants describe their journey so far and the importance of mentorship in their rise to the top.
I didn't realize the value of having a mentor, but how the company helped me was they actually matched me with a mentor.
If we don't start to systematically think about the way that we represent women, whether that be in African media, whether that be in Western media, that's going to be the first thing that needs to happen, is making those changes.
I'm proud of the sisters that I have. I have 12 amazing sisters, lawyers, accountants, doctors, engineers, successful women. So I think I'm the least person that needs to be convinced about the capacity of women, what they can do.
The second plenary was moderated by Vice Chairman, Channels Media Group, Dr. Olushola Momo.
I've sort of drowned the clamor for the actualization of the UN Millennium Development Goals, one of which is a fight for gender inclusivity in all aspects of policy formulation and execution globally. But all thanks to organizations like WimBiz for their strong commitment to staying the course and not allowing us to forget issues that relate to female women rights. And they continue to advocate gender inclusion in business, politics, in fact, every facet of our lives. They're organizing this conference again and want us to have a deep conversation around fine-tuning how we can be leading beyond borders.
Diplomats from the United States, the UK, Namibia, Canada, France, and Nigeria's ambassador to Jamaica unveiled their interpretation of leading beyond borders.
So then, let's do ladies first, after the men. So, Ambassador Gaisab, let's start with you, please. What do you make of this topic, and how would you say that leading beyond borders is working for you?
When our women returned from Beijing conference, after, of course, the normal issues of presentations of the outcome and so on, what they agitated was to have equal number of men and women in leadership positions and in positions of decision making. That agitation led to a decision of the ruling party, the Swabo Party of Namibia. And after some time, a Congress, I think somewhere in 1997, the Congress took a decision to adopt that equal representation of men and women in leadership positions as a party official decision.
For me, it's about the relationships, building relationships with your host nation. It's about how you represent your country within that host nation. It's about how you adapt both culturally, the environment.
Leading beyond borders, I think, is a reflection of our collective responsibility to try to improve the condition, and in this case, with regards to gender equality.
It's about working together, partnering with our partners here in Nigeria to find the problem answers and solutions to the problems that vex us all. Because climate change is not a United States problem, it's not a Canada problem, it's not a Nigeria problem, it is a global problem.
First of all, internally, when you're managing a team of
expats plus local staff, often in a very multicultural environment, it requires maybe to be more careful with your staff.
We're a work in progress. We need to keep moving. We need to keep pressing.
Amidst the testimonials of success and hype of women's extraordinary ability to mobilize change, women have been encouraged to continue to let their voices be heard and never give up on their dreams and passions.
News round ends in South Africa, where peace talks between warring sides on Ethiopia's Tigray conflict over the past week have led to a cessation of hostilities agreement between the parties, paving the way for the restoration of peace, security, and stability in the Tigray region. The peace talks included a high-level panel for the African Union-led Ethiopian peace process, which included former President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, former President of the Republic of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, former Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Dr. Phumzile Mlambo Nguka, and representatives of the United Nations. That's News Round this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Jokia Rogers.